How desperate do you think you would have to be to go to an ex for money?
Oh,
What's
like
your
he did?
desperation level? Oh, I'm not trying to say he did, but yeah, like
That's
just
not a big
outside of that.
spoiler. That's like an
It's a,
early
yeah, it's a
because that
minor
like that
detail.
ties into we'll come sorry, I'll come back to that. But it ties into the whole concept of how the life inside the game isn't much worse or it's, in some scenarios is better than what people that joined
Experience
are
out there.
living. Yeah, like
Yeah. Yeah.
so we'll come back to that. But how desperate for money or how desperate would you be to go back to uh
See,
like
I
How
think
bad
what
of a situation would you
let's
have
not
to
even
be
say
in?
an X. Let's just say in general, um, I don't know, but I was once in a scenario where I was like I need a couple $100 to like make a car payment kind of thing once
mm,
in like a one time in my life, and that's why I'm very grateful now that that's not really something I a problem I don't think I'd have to worry about. But
mm,
to do that now, like I would have to be like I don't I don't do enough things I think that would put myself in a scenario like that. Like yeah, Carl said the verge of homelessness. Yeah, like I'd have to be like in an insane amount of like let's say gambling. I don't gamble, but let's say I did. Like I could see how that rabbit holes very quickly. Like where you're like, oh, you have a big loss. Oh, I just need some money to take out. I've got a big win here that I could cover, and I'd be good. And then you lose again, and then then it's fucking like a slippery slope from there.
Yeah, like
Um,
would you borrow money knowing that you can never repay it? Like let's say you're in a
I
situation
think
where
you
like I'm 10 grand, like let's say you're 10 grand in debt
let's
and
say
you're
let's say
like,
a
yo,
hundred. Let's say like 100, like
ooh,
a
okay.
number that's
oh,
like
Fuck.
oh, but I
oh
want to put a
yeah,
realistic number. I want to put a realistic number on it there for like us. Like let's say us right
Okay,
now.
let's start with 10. Let's
Let's
start
say
with 10.
you're 10 grand in debt, your mortgage payment comes out, you need $600, let's say, to pay it off. Let's just assume it's $600. But your bank is like, yo, you already maxed out your cards. Like that's 10 grand. Your Visa's 5 grand, your other Visa's 5 grand. You cannot take out any more money. You go to someone being like, yo, can I borrow 600? But you also don't have an income. Let's just say COVID made you lose your job, right? Are you still gonna borrow money knowing that you're gonna have to be in the same situation again? It's just stalling the situation, and but at this point now you're in debt to someone else as well, or
see,
like
it's tough because like the circumstances are so different than like the people where they don't have people to lean on. Like the main character has
Yes,
no one to
exactly.
well,
support
I'm
him.
not trying to talk about the
Yeah.
Squid Game. I'm just talking about desperation in
No,
general.
I agree,
Just
but I'm saying
yeah.
like that's why I'm saying like for me, I'm more like or I think in North America, it's like 100 grand would be something because it's like I don't know if my parents could help me
And
out
they
if I
can't
was
help.
like I'm 100 grand in the hole. Like I'd be
Yes.
fucked.
Yeah.
Like 10 grand would be something that I'm like I think I know enough people that be like can everyone just like I'll pay you back I promise. But it's like people that are close enough are willing to 10 grand's not a lot of money to come back from
Yep.
with people that are in good decent circumstances, let's say. But a
Yep.
100 grand, like that's a lot, and that's
So
where
let's
it's
say
like
100 grand then.
fuck.
I mean that okay,
I don't
so
even
there
know how
was
you
a
go about that. Like how do you bring that up?
back when GME was doing its crazy shit. I mean it still is, but like when it started doing its crazy shit, there's a story this kid, I don't even know how old he was, young 20s, maybe
Yeah,
21.
I think I heard about this. Nuts.
Right? He went in crazy with the whole GME ride, not understanding how stocks work and more importantly how margin accounts work. And it ended up being he had something like I think it was like $700,000 in debt in the matter of like a week or
Yeah,
two,
yeah,
just
yeah.
because he was playing with big money, didn't understand how it worked, and so he killed himself. And as sad as that is,
Like I
it
could
sucks. I
see where
don't.
he's coming from.
But I totally. How the fuck you get out of $700,000? How you,
Mm-hmm.
you can't.
Especially at someone like he was a student, right? So he had no income. I think that was the
Or
story,
like
right?
low, like it
I
wasn't like
think he
a
was a student too.
like
Even if you
part-time
had an
income.
income, does any of us have $700,000 of extra cash laying around?
Yeah, like that's crazy, especially since it's also something that you're in debt for that you don't have tangibility for. Like, let's say you go 700 grand in debt because you bought a Lambo. You at least have a Lambo, so you can you can have some sort of leverage. Where he had no leverage because
Sure.
he just threw his money into something. It didn't work out. Done.
It's like having a mortgage. It's like yeah, I owe $600,000, but I have a house, but it's like
Yeah.
I'm paying
It's
that.
collateral.
You know,
It's
yeah,
collateral.
Like, yeah, it's
exactly.
collateral. Yeah.
But yeah, I couldn't imagine being like, oh, I owe $600,000 to the bank, and all I have is like terrible history in my Robinhood account. I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure
yeah, exactly.
he must have been using Robinhood.
The biggest fucking negative
But yeah.
number you've ever seen in your life.
He was
Yeah,
so
like-
desperate that literally he thought, honestly, I'm just in such a hole. I'd rather end my life. But
I think that's where he transitions from desperate to despair. Like there is no more hope.
And that's again, at least what the comment you made, as sad as that is, like I think that's a reality that I think of a lot of people who are in that kind of debt, that they would see that as the only way out. $700,000, like
the other thing
your
too
life,
is
the rest of like your future is literally just you don't have anything. Like,
you're not
just,
eating ever again. Like
No, like
that's
seriously,
it. That's a
Like-
wrap. Like life is already so shitty in the sense that we need to work up until 65 to be able to enjoy it full time. Now imagine like never, ever. And this
Yeah,
way
you
you
gotta
pass
work-
on to your
you're
kids.
you gotta
never-
work up to 65 just to try to break even and then have no income to follow that.
Yeah, and you're still fucking making 700,000 by. I mean, that's probably doable, but
Let's say you
Still.
make 70K. That's 10 years.
sure.
no. Well,
But 10 years of
assuming,
not
no, but
spending
assuming
that
Yeah.
also
assuming you're
assuming
not spending. Yeah.
no 70K2 is that like you mean pre-tax or
pre-tax. Well, yeah, we'll have to
yeah,
be
because
post-tax,
if you
right?
make
Yeah.
70K, you're making really what, like 45,
Exactly.
50 at most.
How
like
much of a
that.
slap in the face is that you're 700 grand debt and the government's still like,
Yeah, it's
Don't forget
nuts.
about me. Don't forget about me. That's fucking.
Yeah.
Couldn't you